sure the hearing aid is on. It is. We'll call the Rock-Koshkonong Lake District order for Friday, February the 6th. I'll confirm the meeting's notice in the usual places, and we'll move on to approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
There are no changes. So all in favor of the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of the draft January 6th, 2020 meeting minutes. I do have a couple of suggested amendments. Down towards the page, Bowers recommends the slide gates, sorry, wrong line. A Jelena Call motion to move ahead with the front slide gate option, and I want to add for contract amendment number 2. That's a suggestion for somebody to make that motion. There isn't any numbers, but it's the last line on page 1. Right after option, insert for contract amendment number 2. And then on the very next line, it's basically talking about the same thing. Right after change order for contract amendment number 2, just for clarity. If somebody would care to make that motion.
I make a motion to amend those.
I'll second it.
Are there any other amendments? Any other amendments to the January 6th meeting minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of the meeting minutes as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Public participation for agenda items only. Just to announce, good a time as any, we do have our new DNR water management. Are you a director?
Oh boy, do I wish. Engineer, water management.
Thank you very much. Uriah Monday. So we welcome him. He's come to get the pulse of the community, and so everybody behave. Are there any public comment on the agenda items only? Any public comment on the agenda items only? Hearing none, treasurer's report. Mark, I think I'll let you take it any order in which you wish.
Okay. I have a new report that I'm going to try to use and basically follow throughout 2020. So beginning and ending balances should match meeting to meeting. I'll just run through the financials. The dam fund CD1 actually matured, and we renewed that into a 13-month CD at First Community Bank. Dam fund CD2, that matured and was moved to the money market. We knew that in December. CD3, that matures on 7/9 of 20. And then the money market fund associated with the dam fund is open. That's available money. So total dam fund 703,384.26. Lake Improvement Fund, which is a money market as well, 106,891.46. General fund, I went back to where we left off in December. Well, actually, end of November. So 11/26/19 balance was 67,256.98. And then, as part of this new report, we'll list all activity in the general fund. So it'll follow the bank records and be a lot easier to audit. So Lion Energy for December, there's 2 different bills. John Heller, we paid to pick up the buoys. One of our mysterious internet accounts, I am having a hard time getting shut down, but I will. So I keep declining the charges, and they credit it, charge us again, decline it, credit it, finally put a stop payment on that, which the bank waived the $30 fee. So that was nice of the bank. We also have a Wheeler Van Sickle refund of $35.43. Short version of that story is we paid 2 bills that were consecutive. Ray had one prior to the annual meeting, and then we received one after the annual meeting. Paid them both in full, but they were actually an aggregate of first bill, second bill. So that credit, after everything was said and done, they actually paid us back, and we're square with Wheeler Van Sickle. Kim Botham, we paid in January for 2019 dam operations. Then you have January utility bills. Another CenturyLink charge, followed by a credit deposit for some taxes. And you can see on the right there's some notes, and basically 2020 we're expecting $204,000 in taxes. So we have another $182,580 to come. Another small deposit for taxes, a couple more Alliant bills. So February 5th balance is $85,850.32. Bills for approval, we have Mead and Hunt, $95,4810. Ongoing design to grant application, Thompson Legal, $227.50. That's for our initial meeting. Mars, Montgomery & Associates, $742.50. Support for the dam project. Myself for $227 for the EIN application fee. Alan Sweeney, $86.43 for small tools and grease. Kim Botham, January 2020 services for $1,200. So our anticipated ending balance is $73,818.79.
Any questions on the financial report?
You didn't have an EIN number before this?
Correct.
Not that we know of.
Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the financial report.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The bills, 6 of them listed. We have a motion to approve the bills.
So moved.
I'll second. Questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Carry on. Mark, please.
Okay. Things, a work in progress, I guess I'd like to update that. So our EIN number was received. The 2019 Wisconsin Department of Revenue report was filed, which is more of a formality than anything. I sent an official request to NOAA for daily water forecasts in addition to flood forecasting. So basically what was happening before is NOAA would predict out 3 days, basically if we were going to flood or if we were beyond flood stage. So that forecast disappears under 9 feet. So we asked, given you have the data, can you forecast river levels, period? So now we have a 3-day look ahead, which will help us hopefully manage the dam a little more proactively. It's not on there yet, I checked, so it might take a month or whatever for them to get that working. So I also sent an official request to BMO Bank for historic records. Some of our review with our new attorney, Danielle Thompson, was we do need a record retention policy. So the request is for the financial records so we can recreate as much of the past as possible and archive it. Then Thompson Legal is reviewing policies and procedures as well as exemptions. So some of the people that weren't assessed last year, some of the parcels that weren't assessed, what the feedback we got is we're obligated to assess every parcel, every private parcel, unless it's governmental or has an exempt status. Then we can go on to decide as a commission if it's fair to exempt other parcels, like the Rock River Leisure Estates has, I think, 28 zero value parcels, which are pieces of land in between their buildable lots, or whatever you want to call them. So that's one. At some point, the district decided to exempt multi-parcels that are farmed, meaning if a farm's made up of 5, 6 parcels, only one of them gets assessed. I don't have any record of that history, or there's no book of
Exemptions.
So I assessed everybody and figured we'd work backwards on it. So we're going to have to vote on the individual instances and come up with a ruling that we can record for historic purposes and stick to that forever. Danielle Thompson also suggests that we go to a mill rate, which would eliminate basically all of those issues. So if you have a zero value parcel, zero, you can assess everybody, maybe exempt the farms, whatever. Some of the single entity that pay one fee for 20 people would, get caught up in the mill rate a little better than they do as an assessment. So that's going to be part of our annual meeting vote, from what I understand, or we're going to get that on the agenda.
Okay, for annual?
That's been suggested, I guess. I
Okay.
don't know if we're to that point yet or not.
Okay.
Then generally speaking, dam grant application due February 28th, award mid-June. Annual meeting will determine the project funding and tax vote. Total interest for 2019 was $13,624.29. For all accounts, there is no reporting requirement. I checked with Summit Accounting, and he didn't know for sure, so then I checked with Eric Olson from the university, and he confirmed that there's no reporting requirement for nonprofits. So 1099 or W-2 is required for employees or subcontractors. So with that said, as we get into the projects and the subcontracts, we should also have a lien waiver, kind of a allocation of funds, along with that purchase order that we wanted to add into our policies and procedures. So we go through a request for funding, a marrying up of the request, the invoice, and then ask for that lien waiver, and catalog, keep track of it so we can issue those 1099s at the end of the year. So everything stays together, I guess, and that's all I have.
Okay. You had Summit Accounting on the agenda. Is that something you want to discuss this evening, or?
Yeah, the conversations with Summit Accounting are, we're not sure. We generally don't do a lot of governmental accounting, and we've been told that we don't have to report. So they've only been involved in our books, checking balances, making sure that the year-end statement is kosher with general accounting practices. So I don't think we're getting $2,800 worth of work done. just to be blunt. So some of these W-2s or 1099s, maybe that can work into that 2,800 and get the district a little better value for the dollars.
So your suggestion is to have an audit that is like any other municipality or government agency has an audit, not just a bank checkbook reconciliation?
Yeah, what we don't do is ensure that the funds are properly spent. We keep track of the spending, but there's nobody qualifying whether or not that's, per the taxpayers' wishes and in line with our budget, da-da-da-da-da. So that audit piece, part of my new report is so you can walk down the bank statements, see that, and then my plan is to take the packet that has all the applicable bills and emails and whatever, and that's scanned in for this report and all the backup, so that somebody can go to that and do a quick rundown. May not even be that might be an attorney's, a tax attorney or somebody rather than the accounting people.
Okay.
I don't know how we want to do that. Danielle Thompson said there's an audit required, but everybody else has said it's not necessarily required, it's suggested. So
I think the electors could require it,
that would be for sure, yeah.
and I think they would. Mark?
We've done research on that on behalf of the town of Bellevue, and Bob Bensky's here, but it's public record as well. But we have an opinion from a longtime municipal attorney, Tim Fenner, who says an audit is required. It's not black, it's black and white. An audit is required. And I agree 100% with Danielle Thompson. That's what she said. That's what Bill called. If you talk to all these municipal attorneys, they're going to tell you an audit is required.
Is it mentioned what kind of audit?
It's an audit that goes through. It's not what the Lake District has been doing for their entire existence. They have thought that we were going to litigate that issue against them because we felt it was clear cut that the circuit court would rule in favor of the towns. So the towns were frustrated that they were getting told one thing and not getting information they needed, and they were helping to fund.
Thank you.
So no problem. It's just new, right? So we have to implement it and make it part of our policies and procedures, I guess.
Okay. Then part of the correspondence, Mark, from Danielle Thompson was just a paragraph on insurance and records retention. Could you go over those, please?
Sure.
The insurance kind of surprised me a bit. I was thinking that we were woefully underinsured, but
Printed a letter here somewhere. I have it, I think. Right there, okay. Insurance, I reviewed your declaration page from the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, Municipal Insurance. You appear to have the necessary coverage for liability, workers' comp, and directors, officers, errors, and omissions. As a municipal entity, you enjoy the benefit of certain immunities from liability and damage caps. As a result, you may be able to lower some of your coverage limits. However, it doesn't save you a significant cost. I would err on the side of more coverage than less. Does the district own any real property or improvements? So I think that's where we were saying, she goes on to say, I see there's general endorsement for the Indian Ford Dam. Do you have a copy of that endorsement? Which I don't. I'll have to ask for that.
who would be in possession of that?
I guess the underwriter.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't clear to me that there was X amount of catastrophic or replacement value listed on the policy, so my assumption was the real property doesn't have insurance on it.
That wouldn't surprise me.
So but I don't, she seems to think there's some coverage there from how I understand what she's saying, so.
And then the records retention piece?
As a public entity, the district is bound by Wisconsin open meeting and public record laws. In that regard, it is important that the district establish an orderly policy and procedure for records retention. I understand that may have been an issue in the past. Wisconsin statute 19.21 dictates the requirement for local government entities to retain records. My office can assist in drafting or reviewing a record retention policy for the district if necessary. So Eric Olson said we should do what we can to recreate that history to the best of our ability, and then moving forward, retain our records. Personally, I think all of the financial records should be kept, and then get rid of some of the miscellaneous every 7 years, flush it out. But if we, go to some cloud-based storage or something, I don't really see where we'd have that many documents
Okay.
to worry about it, so.
Jenny, Jim, and I are going to be discussing this, and I think we probably can have some ideas for the March meeting to bring to the board. So everybody's kind of on the same page with this. So, any questions for Mark on any of the issues that he brought up? Okay. Union 4 dam report. Quite a bit with only one bullet point, but first is the contract amendment number 3. This covers the dive, the requirement. It would assist in making the bids for the gate system to be more reasonable, less contingency. And you all have a scope of the dive, I hope. This was developed by Mead and Hunt. The scope of the dive was developed by Mead and Hunt. It's pretty extensive, more extensive than I'd ever dreamed an inspection. The idea is to have the divers inspect literally everything under the floor of the powerhouse, but specifically the bulkhead sills where the gates would go, and at the same time measure those at 2-foot intervals within a 1/16 of an inch. So basically, a contractor is going to take those measurements, build those 6 gates to those measurements. I did have a discussion with GEO, the dive team that we had inspect the wickets last summer, and at that time, GEO quoted me a price of $31.50 plus $175 a day for equipment, with a $1,500 per day standby. However, when Mead and Hunt, Jeff Anderson inquired and sent the scope of work to GEO, so far GEO is the only one to respond back. That price went to $15,600. But they're saying more than likely a 3-day event. There was some question about, at least other dive teams, there was some question about the safety of the dive in the water flow. I think, well, I don't know, but I think it's relatively safe for a diver because we can close those wickets literally 100%, and there's very little, if any, flow through them. But I would guess there's always some. The 3 panels, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but the 3 panels that are just partially in the water on the west 3 panel openings would have to be removed because they have to inspect the total condition of those bulkheads. So they can't have any panels in there and measure them. So that's what contract amendment number 3 is about. That encompasses the scope of work and the assisting the divers at the time of dive, getting that information and data, and then reviewing that information and data for our RFP. Questions?
So what they're saying is, go down and verify that the foundations are appropriate to anchor into or whatever. So you could write the scope, assume that the foundations are okay to anchor into, and then it might cost you more money if they're not.
Correct.
Or so I'm not sure that the only thing, if they're not, it could mothball the project because of the cost.
How it was explained to me is a contractor would come in and would not know the measurements of those bulkheads, so they would have to probably send a diver in anyway, and they would bid the work assuming that they were going to have to do some extensive repair on the bulkheads to hold the gates. So with amendment number 3, that information is known ahead of time.
And he kind of hit on that on the presentation of it, was that
He did.
it's all questionable until we get a diver down there.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money, but I think the contract would more than likely double that for an unknown.
Yeah. I just heard a gasp in the audience, which is kind of it feels the same because it's, we have scope creep already and we
Right.
haven't stuck an oar in the water.
Yeah.
So hopefully we won't spend it all before we're engineered, I guess. It's logical, but it's a lot of money. So.
Mm-hmm. And then I can give you a little background on an inspection that Jeff and I did at the dam on the 22nd. It might spur some more questions on this. Jeff Anderson came down to do some measurements at the powerhouse to get some pre-information for the engineering and for the dive. We had talked about the removal of the existing crane framing and the need to fill or place a column on both sides, east and west, to support the end column and support the end gate column. So that would require the stair that comes up to that work area to be replaced with an east-west configured stairway. And then on the east side, a ladder, of course with a handrail that would go down to the overflow structure. Removal of, get the right document here. There's a diagonal roof piece that goes down and almost hits those panel areas on the front side. And it's down, it sticks down in normal flow of water now. And I asked Jeff if part of that configuration we could remove that. And since there's no, you don't need it for support, he said that was okay. I did not discuss with Jeff the removal. Well, obviously the wickets would come out, but the cement ring that they sit on, part of that is at least the front part of that ring is going to have to come out. But we need to discuss at some time the removal of the whole ring. And then I didn't talk to him about the wall on the outlet side, whether that needs to be modified for flow or not. And that's all part of his calculations. We talked about a construction easement with Rock County. I guess received some documents from county planning with the easement for RKLD to do repair and maintenance on the dam structure through Rock County's park. I had Corporation Council, Rock County Corporation Council review that easement for actual construction versus what the easement said is repair and maintenance. Corporation Council thought that the easement was sufficient, but if the grant application required, we could get a short-term easement for construction at that location. Will require closing of that park, which is, I talked to the parks director as well, and that's not an issue. Access to the powerhouse itself, Jeff took those measurements as well. Probably looks like we're going to have to take part of that door as it comes up to the radius. We'll have to take that out. There is a junction right there, so that wouldn't be that hard to do, to open up that powerhouse for backhoe equipment or whatever kind of equipment the contractor wanted to use. Jeff thought, since the dive fee is not in Amendment 3 because he only has one contractor so far, he thought a $7,000 set aside with a high contingency would be in order for the dive itself. That's the review. That's the dive, the review of the dive, reviewing the data, and offering that data to RKLD or the bid specs. That spur any question on amendment number 3?
What were we up to total? 75 or somewhere?
No, it's more than that. 111,400, 111,400.
With this?
Yes.
So this is post-grant. That money would be spent after the grant application is,
I think
Yeah,
it's
most
not,
likely.
to my understanding, it wouldn't be part of the grant application.
right,
Right.
yeah. So, maybe we don't find out if we have any grant money until mid-June,
Correct.
and then we wanted to expedite the RFQ after that.
Well, yes, yes. And maybe another bit of information that's helpful too. As you know, there was some debris removed from under the bridge by a dive team out of Kenosha, I believe, or was it Racine, Kim? And I had a chance to view in real time the video of the diver, and the clarity of the water was actually pretty remarkable. And that's what kind of prompted me to contact Jeff and see if we can get this dive completed as soon as we can, because the water clarity is very good. Versus when we had GEO there last summer, 6 inches in front of your face, and that's all you could see.
Yeah, so, and that'll change in March,
Right,
so
right,
whether you can get it done by then or not is...
right.
Can you talk into the microphones, into your mics,
I can try.
please?
I think the motion can be just, in my opinion anyway, approval of contract amendment number 3.
Can we do that without any action behind it? Without action written behind it? Linda?
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, we have to take action on this. My fault.
I make a motion to approve of Amendment 3. One way or another, we're going to have to pay for it anyway, or it's going to have to be done to keep moving forward to get this process going. Approve Agenda 3, or Amendment 3.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve Mead and Hunson Engineering Contract Amendment number 3. Any other discussion? Any other discussion?
We need to take a look at the budget. We moved 114,000 would be strong for the dam. We brought some money forward from 19, and we had 50,000 for 20. So we have in the neighborhood of 100,000.
Okay. I think a conversation with Mead and Hunt on what their draws are going to be and when they're going to be would be in order.
Okay, and there's also 20-some thousand unallocated because of that 4,000 parcel generic number
Okay.
used. So it's there. How we move it, we may have to take action on that next meeting.
Okay.
So
Yeah, to have that information from Mead and Hunt, I think, is a good action. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. to approve contract amendment number 3. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Lake management, we went over the forecasting request from NOAA. Landing and lake access, update on the appraisal. Bob?
Yeah, I'll just give you a verbal update. I got a call today at 3 o'clock from the appraiser, and he has completed the appraisal, but my office was closed, so I couldn't get an email. So he verbally told me that the appraisal came in at 62.9,
Okay.
and I will have his report by Monday, and I'll forward everything over to you.
I did, yesterday, had a discussion with Chris James from Dane County Parks. Their 2020 budget, I know he had expressed interest in Dane County buying that parcel. And he said that the 2020 dollars are all spoken for right now, so. It doesn't mean that they can't come up with some other dollars, but.
Oh, yeah.
So he asked me what the status was, and I told him we're getting an appraisal, so that's all the information I had. Okay.
I guess you guys got to decide what your next move is. I think you should read the appraisal and see the reasons. It surprised me it came in a little high, but it's not really listed as farmland, it's listed as building site. Mm-hmm. Being road frontage, close to the lake. So I guess in that respect, it's a fairly reasonable price. Mm-hmm. But the next step, I would think, would be have our attorney drop an offer to purchase so that we can approach Legion of Christ. And also see, have we picked an engineer yet that may write the grants for the DNR and the Dane County to get the funding?
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion that needs to take place. Who's going to own it?
Yeah.
Who's going to maintain it? And
Well, I think once you get the appraisal and read that, you can decide when to move forward.
we have a big money pit south of here, so.
What?
I say we have a big money pit south of here.
Oh, yeah.
Anything else, Bob? Anything else, Bob?
Pardon?
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. Any questions for Bob? All right. Next is a resolution authorizing the participation of the municipal dam grant program. This just a resolution, obviously what it says, to submit our application to that DNR grant program. I can probably hand this to DNR as we walk out the door.
I'll see you eventually.
Have a motion on it, please?
Make a motion,
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution be 2020-1, authorizing resolution for participation in the Department of Natural Resources Municipal Dam Grant Program. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show we are in favor unanimously. And that is your signature line. Okay, public comment. George?
Randy mentioned to me about my idea of pouring that slab 6 foot wide and putting the trash racks on an angle so you could put a mini backhoe on there and reach down and clean that debris off the trash rack.
All that was mentioned so far about the ability to take large objects out of there was we need a plan going forward. That hasn't been developed yet, though. I don't know what that's going to be. Buck?
Uriah Monday I've worked with over the years, and he's here as the new water resource person. It would be nice for him to give you a little bit of background, Uriah, about your background and that sort of thing. I think it's going to be a positive development for the
I almost forgot he was here. He was so quiet.
Listening. Well, thanks, Bob. I ran into on the hall side again. So, I'm fairly new to the DNR. I think this is my 3rd week, and you were my first public meeting attended. That's not to say I don't have a lot of experience in public meeting attendance. I actually sit on the planning commission in my own town, and I've been a consultant for 21 years prior to taking this position. My work lately as consultant, I would say over the last 6 to 8 years, has been primarily with floodplains and dams, but I've also got extensive experience in stormwater management, wetland and waterway permitting from the private side, which is where I know Buck from. Also, some general municipal engineering background sort of further back in my past. We did a lot of surveying, which I really enjoy, and I found that that's been kind of a handy thing to pull out of my back pocket over the years. Here I am.
Very good.
A lot of folks in the department that I work in now, so I've been able to hit the ground running from kind of that standpoint.
Indiana, right?
Yeah. Yep. The faces I've met at work are in a new context, but not new, so.
Okay, welcome.
Thanks.
Comments from commissioners?
Just have one other comment.
Yes.
It's nice to come to the meeting and have them see the transparency that we haven't seen in the past, and to have the books, you can see what's been paid and what's not been paid, and kind of know where you stand. Just want to say thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Right there.
Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
The Corps of Engineers, there was a $100,000 grant, and the work was done. Would any of the recommendations or anything that was done in that survey, it's a little bit old now, carrying forward to have anything to do that would be on the agenda for the meeting in August?
It'd be suggested by probably by our engineer, anything that we need to discuss with the Corps. But I don't see the Corps being involved much in it all in this project. I think it's a permitting issue.
The recommendations that were made carrying forward to any other area that is not being on the table now, that going forward, that should be taken care of or looked at, or at least recognized.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was any discussion that I recall. Now, maybe it happened, but there was a lot of money spent. There's a lot of information there. And would any of that be pertinent, that what we should be considering going forward, rather than just let that $100,000 work just
Okay.
whatever.
All right. Consider that.
You're talking about the other projects, not the 2 initiatives we have right now. You're talking about the other projects, the pass initiatives and all that?
The thing is, that was a large study that was done, and whether any of the recommendations were carried forward, or the important, bullet points that they had, would any of that be meaningful to us to discuss, bring it forward, that in the August meeting to say, by the way, These are some recommendations that were considered, and should that be looked at for the good of the whole lake
Right.
system?
Right, yeah, and
That's what-
that started in 2011, the PASS initiative, and it was, but there, to your point, there could be some valuable takeaways from that. It would have to be reviewed, but to bring it to the annual meeting may be really confusing,
Well,
I think, because it's
there were bullet
pretty broad, you know.
points that were important then, and they weren't taken care of. You know, that lets good recommendations slide, and that's,
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
do with it what you can, but it would be nice to review it.
Mhm.
If there's bullet points in there that should be taken care of, have at it.
Any other comments? Comments from commissioners? Just a couple of things kind of back down at the Indian Ford Dam. Part of this process triggered a historic research of the powerhouse, and the Indian Ford Dam powerhouse is indeed a historic structure and is eligible for protection, they call it, which really involves some more hoops to jump through. Nothing, I don't think that's going to stand in our way. There may be some design restrictions when we go to designing the liftgate system, maybe some color or whatever, but just that piece of information. Then Mead and Hunt saw it necessary to do an abstract of the improving the project discharge capacity at the dam, and I asked Jeff to include the approach that we took to decide on starting at the crest gate and moving to the slide gates in front of the powerhouse, include that. He said if his abstract is selected at his convention, that he would include that, but so far the abstract that he sent me was, he had a word limit on it, so. Any other comments from commissioners?
There was talk a while ago that we should keep a book of resolutions. There's a few resolutions on the website, I think, but moving forward, part of our cloud storage, whatever we decide, that we need to build that template for that, and, you know, make things a little more official as we
I agree.
move through the changes, so.
I agree. And again, Jim, Jenny, and I are going to hopefully have something, an idea or two in front of the board for the March meeting. Anything else? Any motion to adjourn, please?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Ta-da. Do you need help? What? Do you need help on voting?
Yeah, it looked good. It looked good. No, what you sent me.
We got all that.
Well, yeah, you can. Yeah,
But I didn't want to do it during the meeting.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like, well, there's no
yeah.
point.
I didn't think that was appropriate.
No,
Cooped up all day, I'm like, I'll pick them up, see if that's what it is.
yeah.
Hey, Jim. Yes. Since you're the secretary.
Your land, any permits that you file, any permits that you ask for.
Since you're the chairman.
Thank you.
The town, the planning committee, everything from the planning committee that we've ever done, you know,
Do what you.
beginning to end, is still on record someplace.
Right.
We've got